Howdy guys, welcome back to BRG Photography. This is Ben, and it's been a while since I've put up a full portrait retouch video, so that's what we're going to be doing today. And we are going to be taking this lovely image and going from here to here, all in Affinity Photo. So, to see how I do it, stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. We've got a lot to do, so let's just go ahead and jump right in. Now, before we start doing any kind of retouching, it's always a good idea to have a game plan of the things that you want to fix, retouch, reduce, edit, etc. So when I'm looking at an image like this, I'm always looking at two things. I'm looking at, of course, the subject, and I'm also looking at the background, which is also very important. Because if you have a few or too many distracting elements in the background, it takes away from the subject, and we don't want that. So looking at the background first, there are some things that I definitely know I want to get rid of. For example, this triangle sticker here on the window, this pipe, the top of this stool, and then this sticker here kind of bothers me a little bit. We'll get rid of that. Even maybe this little white highlight here. Now there are some other things, like this wire kind of bothers me, and so does this plant kind of sticking out of her knee. But because the background in that area is so complex, I don't really feel like rebuilding it or erasing it. Maybe it's something I should have paid more attention to on the shoot, but for now it's fine. Okay, so those are the few background elements that I don't like, that I want to get rid of. Now let's move on to our subject, and for today our subject is the beautiful Stephanie. She is a model dancer out here in Tokyo. I'll leave her Instagram information below so you can give her a follow. And pretty much she's great. She looks fantastic already, but this is also something where it's important to sometimes talk to your models beforehand about things that they might want you to touch up or retouch. So for example, in Stephanie's case, she had told me that she was a little self-conscious of her stretch marks here, and she wanted me to kind of just reduce them or erase them, which I find kind of interesting because, you know, as human beings, pretty much all of us have stretch marks. Even me as a guy, I have stretch marks, but you know, everybody has their own feelings toward that. So we're going to go ahead and reduce these stretch marks just a little bit. And then as far as things that I see, I'm going to go ahead and try to reduce some of these purple veins that we see in the legs around here. There's also some light, probably looks like scars or something. We're going to get rid of those. So yeah, these kind of veins that we see, this purpleness underneath the skin, we're just going to get rid of that, make it all really nice and smooth, you know, fix little colored things like that. You know, there's a few little marks here in the arm. We'll get rid of that. Now, going to her head or her face, because of the way that her face is tilted, the blood is kind of rushing toward the forehead, causing this vein to pop out. So I definitely want to reduce the veins on her forehead. And here on the nose is a little dark patch right in the middle of these two light patches. It's something that's very small, but I'm just going to go ahead and fix that, get it all one value. And then I also see that there's this kind of interesting shadow underneath her, I guess on the side of her cheek, that just looks a bit funny to me. Maybe it's just a way the light was hitting her fold on her cheek, or maybe the hair or something, but it's just kind of distracting. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that shadow there. The folds under the eyes are fine. They look totally natural to me, but I think I am going to just slightly reduce them. Just reduce them just a little bit. I want to get rid of them. I don't want to delete them. I want to basically just lower the intensity. And then maybe last, we will just make the teeth a little more whiter, maybe a little brighter, as you're going to do with most people's portraits. The hairs, these flyaways, they're fine because I think it kind of fits the image. We're going for this kind of morning, just woke up, bedhead kind of look. I think I might just delete some of these tips here, where they're kind of a bright highlight, because from a distance they look like little white dots. And then I think at the end we will maybe make her pink shirt a little more pink to kind of brighten it up. And then we will finally add in some cool sunlight coming in here, maybe warm up the whole image to kind of really sell that morning glow. All right, so we've got our game plan, and now we are ready to start editing. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn off our game plan thing. We're going to go ahead and keep it because we're going to refer back to it to make sure we didn't miss anything. So the first thing I like to do, just because I want to get it out of the way, is I want to go ahead and clean up the background. So I'm going to go ahead and make a brand new layer, and we're going to just call this background fix. Okay. And, or as you know maybe, I love my in-painting tool, which can be found in this little area with the healing brush and patch. We're going to go to in-painting brush tool. Make sure we are set to current layer and below. Get a pretty good size. At 100% opacity, 100% flow. My hardness is just somewhere around here, not too particular. And then I'm just going to highlight this sticker and let it do its thing. Boom, got rid of that pretty good. And let's see, now the in-painting brush tool is usually really good at doing things like this. So let's see what it does here. Let's see if it can, look at that, perfect. It even preserved this crease here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just delete that. Maybe go over it one more time, smooth it out, excellent. And maybe right here, to make a big brush, let's just do one click, bam, gone. It's like magic, man, looks so good. Alrighty, now let's go over here and do this. Now, this is going to be a bit interesting, and I want to show you something. Actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and just get rid of these small little scratches on the wall here. Alrighty. If I come in here and just go ahead and do this, dun, 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 how that looks. All right, so it did a pretty good job, but if you notice and you look carefully, there's some weird patterns happening here. What's happening is if we zoom in a lot, we have all this natural noise and grain from the camera sensor. This looks, it's normal camera noise, but you can see the in-painting brush kind of had a hard time figuring out what to do with that noise, and it kind of overlapped the noise and it repeated it in certain areas. And now we have this weird thing, and we can tell that something was erased there. So we don't really like that. You can try going over it again, but it just seems to kind of compound the problem. Maybe you can, but you can see it's not really doing anything. And if that doesn't bother you, or you want to crop it out, or you don't care, then that's fine. But we care, right? Or I care. So we are going to fix this in a way where we do not have that problem. And how are we going to do that? Well, we need to preserve all this noise, but just erase the underlying texture. And the best way to do that is with frequency separation. So we're going to use frequency separation to fix up this background. So it's not just used for skin, it can be used for other things. Now, before we do that, we have to do our frequency separation filter on the actual layer. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Layer, Merge Visible, and that is going to give me a brand new layer that includes our little background fixes. I can go ahead and delete this now, and now you can see we have from that, and now we have a brand new whole pixel layer that we can apply our frequency separation filter on. So we are going to go to Filters and Frequency Separation. Alrighty, so let me show you the trick to doing this. So what we want to do is, let's zoom in down here, as we want to preserve this detail on the high frequency layer, but erase the stool from underneath or on the low frequency layer. So we want to move this radius slider to a point where we do not see the stool on the left side, which is our high detail layer. We only see it on the right side. So let's go ahead and move this slider down, 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 down. Now we don't want to go too far, because then if we go too far, then we're kind of defeating the purpose. And you can see that this noise is here, but we also have a lot of noise here. So we're trying to eliminate as much noise as we can on the right side, which is our low frequency layer, and keep as much of it on the left side without seeing the stool. So let's come up, let me zoom out a little bit. So you can see right here, it's kind of visible. We're going to bring it down, maybe actually 1 pixel might be good. I'm going to do the same technique on this pipe here. So I'm going to double check and make sure I don't see the pipe. So I don't see the pipe here. If I go a bit too high, you can actually see the line of the pipe coming in right here. So I don't want to do that. So I want to get it to a point where, I guess 1 point, that's actually, you know what, let's just try 0.9. We're going to be safe. 0.9. I know for certain I don't see any of this stool here, and there's enough of the noise detail being preserved that it should be okay. We do have some noise patterns on the low frequency layer, but let's see how it works. So I'm going to hit apply, and I am presented with a low frequency layer and a high frequency layer. I'm going to select the low frequency layer and then make a brand new layer. That way it goes right above it and stays below the high frequency layer. And just using my in-painting brush tool on that new layer, I'm going to do the same thing that we did before. come over here, make sure I grab all of it. Even if you go a little bit outside, it's okay. And let's see what it does. Look at that. I think I did a pretty good job. This area is still a little dark, but we can maybe try to come over it one more time. There, I think it looks actually all right. You can notice that it's still, there's a little dark patch here. Maybe I can go over it one more time, and if not, I can use some clone stamping. But I think it looks okay. It's not 100% perfect, but what's most important is a lot of that noise detail, like we saw before, is not all disruptive and it's not all funny looking, and it didn't create weird waves. And at this distance, it looks fantastic. No one's going to second guess that anything was erased there. Unlike before, we had that weird pattern where you could definitely tell something got erased. So that's one way to preserve noise when you're trying to erase things, especially from these darker areas where you have a lot of noise. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the exact same technique on this pipe, but I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to watch me do the whole thing. So I will see you guys in a few seconds. Okay guys, welcome back. So that looks pretty good to me. If I zoom in a little bit, I can see there's still a little bit of detail left over that was preserved on the high frequency layer. That's a pretty easy fix. Just going to make a new layer above the high frequency layer and go back to my in-painting brush tool and just clean up those little lines. And there we go. And I think that looks perfect. Of course, because we erase something, we can kind of tell certain things don't look right, but I don't think anybody is in a second guess that it looks, oh, was something there? No, you don't know. I'm trying to keep this shadow. I guess this is the shadow from her legs and her body. So I think it looks fine. Cool. We're going to move on. And because we're not going to be doing anything to the background anymore, let's just go ahead and put all these together. So I'm going to do that same thing I did before. We are going to go to layer and merge visible, and then it's going to give us a new layer, which I guess it's going to putting it here. Let's go ahead and put this on top. And now we can delete all of these because we don't need them anymore. And this is our layer with all of our corrections. And now we can get to the fun stuff, which is going to be retouching her. So the first thing that we want to fix is obviously these stretch marks, and we're going to do this using frequency separation again. But this time, the radius is probably going to be different. That's why I didn't use the same frequency separation I did in that last one. Filters, frequency separation, and now we're going to do the same thing, but I think the radius will probably be a little bit different, because what I want to do is I want to preserve as much of this kind of skin detail on her leg, but just making sure that I can actually see the stretch marks, because if my radius is too high like this, I can't even see them, which means I can't erase them or I can't affect them. But I don't want to go too much where I see all this detail, because I'm going to be erasing all that detail as well. I want to do something where I'm preserving a lot of that skin detail in the leg, but still having an effect on those underlying tones. And I think maybe, let's drop this down a bit. Maybe something like 2.5. I kind of like it where I can still see a little bit of the stretch marks on the surface or on the high detail layer, because I don't want to get rid of them completely. I like to keep it looking a little natural. But let's say something like that, and I can still see that we still have a lot of this detail being preserved here, which is what we want to preserve. And it's there, and I've got enough information on here to work. So let's see, this is going to work for the forehead as well. I think that should be okay. I can still see a little bit of that line of the vein, but we might have to deal with that later. If we bring it up too much, it's way too much. Let's do that. Let's do back to where we were. Let's do 2.3. Somewhere in there. All right, 2.3. Let's try that. 2.3. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. Again, we're presented with our two layers, low and high. And same thing, let's go ahead and make a brand new layer above the low frequency layer, and let's go ahead and group these all together so we can just keep track of them. Group, and then let's just say FS for frequency separation. Alrighty, so sometimes, or usually when I'm doing frequency separation, I like to turn off the high frequency layer. That way I'm not distracted by all the detail and we can just start going to work. So having our brand new layer selected, still on my lovely inpainting brush tool, I'm going to go ahead and start trying to just erase each one of these lines, line by line. So this is one way. Another way you could do is you could also use the healing brush tool if you like. Make sure we have set current layer and below. Let's go ahead and do 100% flow, 100% opacity, 0% hardness. And here you might have a little bit more control because you can kind of choose where you're sampling from. Whatever is going to work easiest for you. Let's try a little bit with the healing brush and see what that does. The healing brush is great because it kind of blends in your target and your source together, so it can help you make great smooth transitions, especially on like high contrast areas. Okay, let's try that. And I noticed that when I use the healing brush, it seems to work a lot better if you just kind of tap. So I'm just kind of like tap. I'm like sample, tap, tap, tap. Sample, tap, tap, sample, tap, tap. I think that works better as opposed to like painting, because sometimes when you paint like this, it can kind of blend it in too smooth. Like that looked okay, but sometimes it kind of blends in too smooth, creates some kind of weird swirly effects. And I think just doing like a single tap, it gives me a lot more control over the area that I am correcting. So let's just do this last part here. Let's switch back to our inpainting brush tool and see what this does. Just go over that line like that. And it's kind of not, sometimes you'll notice it's like here it's not catching it. Sometimes it gets confused, especially when you have two lines next to each other. It thinks that it wants you to make it look like the line next to it, and it kind of like doesn't work correctly. So but it did okay. Let's switch back to our healing brush. And let's just pick up these little light patches here. And let's take a look at what we have done so far. All right, so let's go ahead and let's turn on our high frequency layer. And there you can see this is our before and this is our after. So you can see that we still have some of this skin detail preserved. We still have slight stretch marks there, which I kind of like. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. If we think it's too much, we can always lower the opacity and do something like that. Now, if you do lower the opacity for this and you end up going for the legs, you might have to do frequency separation again because everything on this level or layer is going to be at this opacity. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is leave it at 100% right now. And let me just go ahead and fix this little dark spot that I see here. And let's just go ahead and do the rest. Let's just go ahead and just do this patch here. And let's start moving on to some of these purple, these purple veins that we want to kind of fix. So I'm sampling from a nearby area, and the healing brush does a really good job of blending those two areas together. And I'm going to show you another way that we can do this in 1 second. When you get to the knee, let me just do a few more of these and we'll see. Okay. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and go to this knee area. We have a pretty big vein here we can get rid of pretty easily. But like say for example, you want to try to get rid of some of this like darkness around here. If you start using the healing brush too close to this plant, you see what happens is it's trying to heal the green into the skin, and we don't want to do that. So you can obviously avoid that by just doing a clone stamp tool, because a clone stamp tool is not trying to blend anything together, but it can be sometimes too harsh. So what I like to do sometimes is just use a normal paintbrush. Use a normal paintbrush. And let's sample a color from around here. So I'm going to hold down Option and click down and hold down Option and click down. You'll get your little color picker tool. We can pick a color from around here. And if you want to get a bit more of an average color, make sure you go to your color picker tool and change your radius to somewhere around 17 by 17 or 65 by 65. That way it's giving you an average sample of a surrounding area of pixels and not just the color of one particular pixel. So we're going back to our paintbrush. Let's maybe grab this color right here. And with a low flow paintbrush, we're just going to start painting out that. Maybe we want to paint out these kind of scars here. This dark area in the knee, we can paint that out. So you can see what we did with the paintbrush there, just like that. And because we are doing this all on the low frequency layer, all that high detail is still preserved. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of the leg. I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to watch me do the whole thing. And then we will do the face and the head together. So hang in for a bit and I'll see you in a few seconds. Okay guys, welcome back. So you can see what I've done here. We've done, this is our before and this is our after. We still have all this great texture in her skin and we have just gotten rid of the underlying veins. Now you might be asking, well, why didn't I use dodge and burn like I usually do for a lot of my images? And I think the main reason is because the veins are actually a different color. If it was just a dark area, then yeah, I would probably use dodge and burn to lighten the darker areas. But because the areas are actually a different color, they're purple, I think just by lightening this dark vein, you're just going to get kind of a lighter purple and you're not going to actually get rid of that purple color. There are other ways to remove that color cast, but I think just by using frequency separation in this method, it just looks really good, smooth, and it's really, really fast. And if you've watched my frequency separation versus dodge and burn, you'll know how much faster frequency separation is. Alrighty, so let's move on to her face or her head. So same thing here. We have these veins. We want to go ahead and get rid of that. Should be pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my high frequency layer. And let's just kind of like see if we can, using our healing brush, just stamp these veins out with this dark shadow here. We have some dark areas here. If there are some other dark or light areas that we want to fix, we can always do that with a dodge and burn layer. We have to be a little careful when we're healing brush near this hairline. So if I get too close, you're going to see what happens is, you know, it's trying to blend in this dark into the forehead. So we don't want that. So this might be a good candidate for using a normal paintbrush, selecting a color around here that we like, and then just painting that out, even painting this light area near the hairline to do it like that. So you know, you're not limited to just using one method. You can go to, I'm always changing paintbrush, healing brush, clone stamp tool, in painting brush, you know, whatever I think is going to look best for what you need to do. So same here. If I want to get rid of this dark spot, I don't think I can use the healing brush because it's going to try to like blend in the darkness from her eyebrows. It might be better for me to use a normal paintbrush, maybe select something like this and just slowly kind of paint over it to kind of get that dark color out. Maybe pick a lighter color and do something like that. Okay, that looks cool. And let's do the same thing here. Let's grab a healing brush and just see if we can get rid of some of this darkness here and paintbrush near the edge because we're getting close to this hairline like that. Alrighty. And this looks okay. I'm going to use a paintbrush on this edge because we're just so close to her eyebrow and some other dark areas. I have a feeling the healing brush would try to like blend all these together and it would just look a bit off. So let's see what we've done so far just for this part. All right, I think that looks pretty good. We've still kept some detail. Now you can see there is some leftover detail on the high frequency layer, but we'll deal with that in a second. What else did I want to do? Another thing is if you notice, because of her head is tilted this way, you might be naturally tilting your head to try to match. You can always rotate your canvas. There's two ways to do this. You can go over here to view and rotate left, rotate right. I have mine set to period and comma on my keyboard, so I can do like this to kind of quickly rotate left and right. And then I have a shortcut key to go ahead and reset the rotation. Another thing you can do is by holding down the command key on your Mac, I guess command or control on a PC, you can move your slider up and down, your mouse slider up and down, and you can kind of rotate to get the angle that you like. Maybe it's easier for you to work by looking at it upright, whatever is going to be easier for you. So I will go ahead and rotate this just a little bit. And we want to try to get rid of this shadow here. Now, because this shadow is surrounded by dark hair and other shadows, I think probably using the paintbrush tool is going to be our best bet to try to get rid of that. I'm going to go ahead and just sample from an area around here, and still using my low flow paintbrush, just come in here and paint maybe just like that. And let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that looks better. Like that just definitely gets rid of that little distraction there. And the forehead looks good. And let's go ahead and just slightly reduce these here. Let's see, let's try doing the in-painting brush tool at a low opacity. Let's try an opacity of like 40% or something. And let's just go over it once and see what happens. Okay, do we like that, or is that too much? I think that's okay. Maybe it's a little bit too much. If we don't like it, let's go ahead and undo that. And let's actually do a lower opacity. Let's try 30. And just go, and let's actually do that. Let's do 30. Let's do the hardness high so we keep some kind of detail. And let's do that one, and then let's do that one. And it looks like it did something kind of interesting here. We may have to come in and do it manually. All right, let's try that. All right. I think that looks okay. It just slightly reduces the shadow there. And of course, we could have done something like a dodge and burn to dodge that area. Let me just kind of fix that dark spot there. All right, and maybe here. All right, cool. That looks good. That looks good. And we've got a few discoloration patches on her chin. Let's look at our game plan again. Are we missing anything? Nope. We'll do the teeth in a little bit. And we just want to fix that little part on the nose. Let me go ahead and just fix this here. Maybe I can come in here. Oops. Make sure first that we are painting on the correct layer, because when you don't, you get some really weird looking stuff here. So let's try that again. Paintbrush. Let's sample this dark color. Let's just paint over that light patch on her chin, and maybe kind of paint over all this bit to kind of blend it in a nicer. Maybe just a bit of healing brush there. Maybe some healing there. Get rid of some of these uneven patches of skin, and then we can use the healing brush right on the edge to kind of blend in that shadow. And I think that's going to be good. Maybe we can just come in here with our healing brush, just kind of get rid of these dark spots. And maybe we can get rid of some of that on here as well. We might do that on the high frequency layer. Let's just see how it looks. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Let's zoom out, turn our high frequency layer back on, before and after. So there's those little subtle details make quite a difference. All right, so we do still have some detail on the high frequency layer we want to fix. With the high frequency layer selected, make a brand new layer, and let's go back to our in-painting brush tool. Let's bring this back up to 100%, and let's just go ahead and get rid of this dark spot here. Maybe we can get rid of these little tiny hairs that you're not even going to see, but I think it's always good to, you know, do as much detail as you can, because you never know. You know, she may want this image printed out bigger. She did love this image. This image taken last year, and she really liked it a lot. But you know, I've definitely had models say, oh, I love this image. Can I get the full resolution image? I want to print it out. And so it's nice when you've done all the high detail work, because you don't have to go back and do it again. So just this little patch here, I'm going to go ahead and click a clone stamp tool, sample from this area. Let's do a low flow, and let's do a full % hardness to preserve some of that detail. I'm just going to paint over that just to kind of get it looking all the same. Maybe even come up here a little bit, like so. Maybe get rid of this little patch right here. try to blend it in kind of as best as I can. Alrighty, let's zoom out a bit and take a look at this. What do we got? Let's turn this all off and on so you can see here we have done quite a bit of work, and I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, this looks great. I think we're on the right track. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'm gonna go ahead and just I see a little bright spot here. That's why it's always really good to zoom out and just double check, because sometimes when you're really zoomed in, you don't see certain things that you see when you're zoomed out. Now, there are a few like patches of light and dark on her forehead, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and fix that in our next step, in our next video, when we do dodge and burn to do some contouring and add our cool special effects and stuff like that. So this is a long one, I think, but thank you very much, guys, for watching. I always appreciate it. I appreciate your comments. If you have any questions, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video. So till then, thanks for watching. Bye.